I'm Rob Saracen. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at Frank Residences, which is part of the San Francisco campus for Jewish living.
And I'm Alona Root Chang. I'm the Life Enrichment Supervisor for the Frank Residences for the campus and for the interns.
The mission statement for our San Francisco campus for Jewish living is to enrich the lives of older adults. We do that through a number of different services on our large 8-acre campus here in the Excelsior district of San Francisco. We have the Jewish Home and Rehab Center, which is a skilled nursing facility, which has been in our nonprofit organization for over 150 years. And then more recently, we opened up Frank Residences, which is an assisted living community, which is attached to a community center that is still currently not open to the public, called Byers Square, which is the logo behind me. So we serve on average over 500 people a day, residents or short-term patients in our rehab center. The majority of the interns that we have here are working with the residents in the assisted living. And that includes people with both memory care needs, so people with dementia diagnosis, as well as independent residents, all the way to assisted living residents who require a lot of assistance with all their activities of daily living. So it's a geriatric or an older adult population that we serve.
The typical duties of the trainee are helping to run groups daily. We're working primarily in our memory care community in the Frank Residences, and it consists of morning programming and afternoon programming. And so the interns get to participate in that. It's a combination of running a group that's more in their wheelhouse of like drama therapy or art therapy. Sometimes it's also doing something that we would consider more like an activities that you would see in a more typical setting. So maybe there's some crossword puzzle or some kind of music appreciation happening. In our assisted living side, where residents can sometimes be a little bit more high functioning, we're running mindfulness group. We're also going to be doing some more drama therapy, hopefully in art therapy groups. And we have a beautiful art studio. So our interns are allowed to use that as well for the residents. And then the second part of that question, the responsibilities are a little bit different than just say the more clinical. It's we do all kinds of additional programming like band outings and listening to live music. So interns are part of that as well. They really are there to support the whole team and participate in all the aspects of life enrichment.
Yeah, I would just add to that that life enrichment is a term that kind of covers a lot, but really what we're mandated to do, and of course want to do because of our mission, is to provide for the very best psychosocial health and well-being of the residents who live here. So it's a milieu setting, and there's lots of ways in which the interns engage with the residents. One thing Alona didn't mention, but we do a lot of is also support groups, psychoeducational support groups for not only the residents, but also for their families, to help families cope with the aging process, and particularly regarding dementia care. So it's a milieu setting, like I was mentioning. So the residents live here. This is their home. And our role is to provide an enriching, fulfilling environment to meet all of their psychosocial and emotional needs. So unlike a counseling center model or even like a clinical setting, like a psychiatric setting where there's a caseload and people are required to go to certain groups or sessions, as part of their treatment. This is a little bit different. The residents have to want to participate in the various programs that the interns are doing, but we do a lot of encouragement. So there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of events just to kind of get the residents and the life enrichment staff, which includes the intern contingent, to kind of get to know each other and sort of creatively brainstorm different kinds of programs or activities that they might want to do together. So like a good example would be, we have a number of drama therapy students. I'm also a drama therapist. So we have a number of people that want to do, for example, something called playback theater, which is an improvisational form of of theater, but it's really kind of psychodramatic, where participants tell stories, and then the actors or the participants who are the players get to play back the story. So that's something, for example, that interns and residents are interested in doing together, and sort of creating that structure. And then that could lead to a performance, for instance, in front of a larger group of residents. So it's those kinds of activities that are open to interns, being able to pursue. And then the referral process also, when we have a resident who we know has specific emotional challenges, like adjustment to the community, or in some cases their adult children want them here but they don't feel that they need to be here, or they're coping with loss or grief, because in a community like this people do get sick and will eventually pass away. There's a lot of places where the interns can get to plug in and utilize their counseling training skills as well. A little bit less formalized than maybe in a clinical setting where somebody comes for a 45-minute session, but more sort of kind of co-created between the resident or residents and the intern as to what that structure might look like and where those meetings might happen.
The trainees are responsible for these large groups, so that's part of the caseload in a sense. And so sometimes the group will be 5 people, sometimes it'll be 10 or 12 residents. If the group needs support, then there'll be a co-leader. Sometimes they're doing those groups on their own once they're trained in. And then in terms of the caseload in a more traditional sense, we're assigning at least 6 or 7 residents to each intern. And again, sometimes we'll have folks that are a little further along the dementia process. Some folks are more oriented and still quite have access to the verbal and all the rest of it. So we try to also do a range of both how well functioning a resident is in terms of their dementia process, or also just what they need clinically, psychologically. So the drama therapy intern students are working with Rob and doing their individual hour with Rob. And then myself, we also have art therapists. And so I'm doing the group supervision, and then I'm also doing individual supervisions.
But throughout the year, we have different didactic seminars and different topics. So, some might be on just brain health and kind of the neurobiological aspects of aging. We might do a seminar on family systems and kind of how to work with complex family dynamics when you have an older parent who's needing this type of care. So there's just different trainings throughout the course of each month and each throughout the year.
I think that one of the main ones is actually being understanding what milieu therapy is enough. I mean, we have to learn it, but just being open to this idea of milieu therapy. It can be a little bit frustrating for folks when they come in and we're so trained and oriented towards this 45-minute, 50-minute session. And here it's really the therapy is happening all the time in so many different ways. Sometimes it looks like a proper 40-minute communication. Sometimes it's a 15-minute communication or 20-minute communication. So that's a big one, is just being oriented to that piece of it. And then also just being open to the creative play space. We're doing a lot of art making, and we're trying to really be based out of that creative play space. And so there's a lot of room for that, and just an orientation, a sensibility for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think people who come in with an open mind of how they can sort of put together a lot of different skills that they may be learning in school. So we tend to not, it's not exclusive, but we kind of more gravitate towards drama therapy and expressive arts therapy students, because they typically have some, creative skill set to begin with, plus their programs require group hours anyway. But we're open to students from other programs, of course, too. But I think coming in with also attributes of just being interested in the aging process, right? Being open to being kind of immersed in the existential, because when you work with older adults, you're working with them around their own end of life issues and their integrity or integration versus despair, right? So they're trying to help the adults that are in our care find meaning and purpose and feel like they're their last chapter of life is relevant, and that they're able to kind of, pull the threads of their life together in some meaningful ways, through the arts, of course, storytelling, art making, as Alona has mentioned, but, just being able to talk about that with their loved ones, being able to, come to decisions, for instance, even around what their advanced directives should be. That would be more for the case of the assisted living residents than the memory care residents, where their family member or responsible parties are already making the decisions for them. But to just help the person have a sense of agency over their life. So those are the attributes, somebody who can kind of look at all of those sort of themes and threads and be very interested in that and open to that. During the course of a year here, people will deal with death and dying. So having, some curiosity, at least, about that process is important. And to be able to, help other people cope with loss. I think those are the attributes that really make somebody successful here. Probably a lot of what I was just saying, right? Like you get attached to a resident and suddenly they're in the hospital because they had, a fall or a cardiac event or some, things are going to happen at the age group of who are taking care of. So I think that, they will be challenged by having to deal with, loss and not always having the opportunity for, the kind of closure we would ideally want in a therapeutic, relationship. It's a dynamic time to be working in healthcare. We've sort of come for the most part out of a terrible pandemic, but there's still, the fragments or the ashes of it are still happening, and who knows what comes next. So it's we're the sort of the front lines of healthcare for older adults, and so there are institutional challenges. There's changes in staffing that happen. So it's a kind of a dynamic time to be in this type of industry. So I think that the interns, on the one hand, that can be challenging. On the other hand, they learn a lot about how to sort of go with the flow, how to sort of be resourceful. Each day is a little different. So I think they get a lot of opportunities to practice thinking on their feet and being flexible, and being part of a larger system that has institutionally, their challenges, right? Like healthcare in America is challenging. People, don't always get to age as well as they would like to because of some of the systemic challenges in the system, right? So I think all of that comes to be a part of the internship experience, and it's a lot of opportunity to learn, and to kind of figure out where one's place is within that system and how to bring the best of their own abilities to to be an agent of change.
Something I always say when I'm doing the interview process is just that if you can dream it up, then, if you can think it and create it, then it's yours to do here. So if you have a creative idea, something that you want to try out with older adults, of course, we'll give it some context and the rest of it. But, the more creative impulse, act hunger, however you want to say that, just the more creative impulse people have to bring more, just some insights into that. The creative process is really, it's a wonderful way to intersect and work here and bring the creative process. So all those thoughts are welcome and ideas.
I echo that, and also just that it's a very supportive and warm organization. I mean, I came here in 2018, having been at Sutter Health and CPMC for a very long time, where Alona and I were part of another training program that's still around, and so we came here, and this was, a big hole in the ground when I came here, this particular building. And so we've, kind of gotten to see, brick by brick and sort of year by year, month by month, the evolution and development. So it's quite, like Alona said, it's a very supportive environment for people that have good ideas and want to, make something happen. The other thing is that we have an incredible facility. I mean, this is like state of the art. We have a world-class performance venue with great acoustics and state-of-the-art sound and lights. And, so you can do anything from concerts to theater to, lectures, workshops. So, we have a pretty good playground here. The art studio, which Alona mentioned. So we have a lot of resources for some, creative individuals who want to immerse themselves in this environment. And the other thing I should mention too is that this is, one of the reasons we built a training program. I mean, there's really two. One is giving back to the communities that we, Alona and I are both CIS graduates, so we, strongly believe in training the next generation of therapists and encouraging people's learning and growth and development. And of course, related to that is we love to hire people that are successful with our training programs. And we have a long track record of doing that. Actually, Alona was one of my first interns at Sutter Health, CP, before it was Sutter Health, like over 20 plus years ago. And, has gone on to do great things. And now is, my co-pilot in all of this. So we have a number of people that came here to do internships that have been hired. We can't promise that, but this is a growing industry. Older adult care is like one of the largest demographics of growth in the industry, in healthcare. The baby boomers getting older, the prevalence of dementia, and memory care related issues and family issues around that. So we're looking to build our pipeline, so to speak. So this is a place, if somebody comes and does really good work and and shows that they are really invested in the mission, as we grow, because we're only a little over half full right now in our new assisted living, there will be more opportunities. And so, it's something we'd like to share with people that are looking, because, there are those student loans to pay back.